Monday, September 12, 2011. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Council Chair Sherman.
Here.
Council Governali.
Here.
Council Jordan. Here. Council Lennon.
Here.
Council Sullivan.
Here.
Council Swift-Kayatta.
Here.
Council Walsh.
Here.
Would you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Town Council reports and correspondence. Ann.
I know I've already let my fellow councilors know, but I did want to let the public know, anybody who might be interested, that after considerable thought, I decided not to turn in my papers last Friday, and I will not be seeking another term as town councilor. The town seems to be in good shape and in good hands at present, and I've served as a councilor for over 12 years, so I thought it was a good time to take a break. So I just want to thank my fellow councilors, present and past, and Mike McGovern and the town staff and all the elected officials, school board and superintendent, all the folks I've worked with over the past 12 years. It's been a privilege to serve the people of Cape Elizabeth, and I wish them well. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ann, and I'm sure we'll have further opportunities to recognize your tremendous contributions to the town. But I'd like to go on record now saying you will be sorely missed. I've enjoyed working with you my past few years in the council, and I'm sure as we get closer to your, hopefully not last meeting, but at least for this stretch, we'll have an opportunity to recognize all that you've done for the town, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
This would be the first opportunity for citizens to discuss items that are not on tonight's agenda. If anybody would like to speak to an item that isn't on the agenda, you're welcome to come forward to the podium and speak. Okay, seeing none, I would ask the town manager for his report.
I will be as brief as the citizens just were.
Okay, thank you. We need to review and approve our minutes from our August 8th, 2011 regular meeting. Is there a motion? Ann.
I move to approve the minutes of our August 8th, 2011 meeting and our August 25th, 2011 special meeting.
Second.
I second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion? The motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry I missed the correspondence or reports, whatever. Is it possible for me to mention the Fort Williams Advisory
Of course.
Commission? Okay. Well, the council knows that the Fort Williams Advisory Commission has been working very hard at the master plan for Fort Williams Park. And it's important for all of us to put on our calendar for next week, the 21st, at 7:30 p.m. here in this chamber. The Advisory Commission will be discussing the master plan and provide an overview for the community, but also expecting to get, and our hope is to get, citizen input. And I'd like to just make sure that the council is aware of the fact that this is an upcoming event, a very important one. Over the last several years, we've heard a lot of comment about Fort Williams and about its use and about its future use. And this is a great opportunity for the public and for my fellow councilors to participate in a worthwhile evening to discuss the master plan. And I just want to make sure that that goes on the record. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Turning then to our agenda, item number 125-2011. This is a Columbus Road seasonal hockey rink request. Ethan Gillespie has requested permission for a second year of a hockey rink at town-owned land on Columbus Road. And I see we have Ethan here this evening, as well as his father, Chris. So, Ethan, the podium is yours.
I have provided you with a copy of last year's ice rink.
Yep, we have it, thanks.
Good evening, Town Council members. We are here tonight to seek permission to rebuild our ice rink on town land. We had a lot of fun with neighbors last winter and hope you will approve it again this coming season. Can we answer any questions?
Does anybody have any questions for Ethan? How many days per week do you think you used the rink last winter?
Probably 4 times a day. 4 times a week.
And were there, how many kids and adults normally were there when you were there?
Normally 3 kids, 1 adult.
Great. Any problems?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion. I would like to move that the council approve the request based on the same arrangements that we approved last year on November 8th, 2010, and I would like to thank Ethan and his family for their contribution to the public enjoyment of this town-owned property.
I'd like to say, well,
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. I think it's a pretty popular.
twice.
Okay, pretty popular motion. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor of the motion? The motion carries unanimously. And thank you again.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, good night. Item number 126-2011, short-term rentals of homes in residential zones. I would ask the town manager to give us a little bit of background here on this item.
Yes, thanks, Dave. Like many communities across the country, Cape Elizabeth has seen an increasing trend of the use of private homes for rental purposes. A lot of it, obviously, is based on the economy and folks having trouble selling homes and using this as an opportunity to help them through the more difficult times. The issue that the staff is bringing before you this evening doesn't really relate to someone having the ability to rent their homes. That's clearly allowed under the law, under state law, and under federal law. It's been a common practice for centuries, very common law. However, the issue is increasingly when does a residence cease to be a residence and when does it become a business? What are the impacts on the neighboring properties, particularly as events begin to happen on some of these properties? And many places have looked at it and addressed it, particularly with looking at what we would refer to as life safety or fire safety issues. Issues of, perhaps requiring an annual inspection of a place that is rented out on a short-term basis. Require that there be active sprinklers or particularly smoke detectors, but more particularly smoke detectors. Saco has similar provisions. Town of Old Orchard has similar provisions. The entire state of Florida has provisions that look at homes that are rented on a short-term basis. Particularly as, we've seen increasing folks having weddings, not, once a year, but, 7, 8 times a year, potentially, different properties. It seems like it's something worthwhile looking at. The staff doesn't have a particular proposal for you. What we would do if this was referred to the Ordinance Committee is to share with you some of the provisions that exist in other jurisdictions, particularly the Florida example, where obviously there's lots of rental homes. Feel that would be helpful. But, we don't have a specific proposal. We just feel that, because it is an area we've received increasing citizen concerns, that it might be worthwhile for the Ordinance Committee to take a look at.
All right, thank you, Mike. Under our town council rules, if anybody, we do not have a public hearing scheduled this evening, but if anybody would like to speak to this issue, you are welcome to come to the podium, and you would have 3 minutes if you'd like to speak now. And please feel free. Thank you.
My name is David Vole, and I live on Lawson Road, one of the areas that's of concern here. First thing I want to say is that we live in a free country. People have every right that is available to make sure that they can make a living, and I know in some cases people will rent their homes simply to keep it in their family because of increasing expenses and taxes going up and everything else, and I don't regret that at all. This is very important to them for their lives. On the other hand, we've had some instances on Lawson Road that town manager just mentioned, where we've had 20 or 30 cars parked around the area that would indeed have restricted emergency usage if it was necessary. We've also had a number of instances where the noise was really excessive, and given that this is a residential, in the past, very quiet neighborhood, to suddenly have to put up with weekend after weekend of excessive noise is a little bit off-putting. And I think among the neighbors' concerns are how this is going to affect the children in the neighborhood, and I know some of the parties have gotten a little rowdy. I don't think that's appropriate for a neighborhood. And I applaud your thoughts regarding coming up with some solutions that would not necessarily affect the ability of someone to rent a place in order to keep it in their family or whatever reason they have. I just think it's going to be important to restrict the use somehow so it doesn't negatively affect the rest of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Crane?
Thank you. Betty Crane, and I live on Starboard Drive. I had the great joy and privilege and good luck to live on Lawson Road for 21 years. I don't live there anymore, but it was a wonderful neighborhood, and I think a neighborhood is what we call our town's different places. So I think if we kind of concentrate on neighbor in this instance, but I'm here primarily to encourage the council to vote to put this into the ordinance committee, and I trust the ordinance committee will use their good brains and really look into this, really study. Mike has said that there are various communities that have ordinances or do have some rules, and I think we're at the point where it's not too late, but if we wait too much longer, it could well be too late. I got thinking today that there are probably another couple of neighborhoods like Lawson Road, and I drove Shore Road, and do you know there's Smuggler's Cove, Old Colony, Lawson, Tide's Edge, Chimney Rock, Delano Park, maybe private, but somebody in there could certainly do what has been done on Lawson. And you go on further, Surf Road, Cottage Lane, all of those, Seaview, they're all neighborhoods with restricted roads, and by that I mean narrow roads that do not accompany a good many vehicles, which happens in cases like this. So I'm here just to urge the council to please either send it to the ordinance or do it yourself. And study it now, make some decisions before it's too late, because now is the time to move on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody, yeah, please just feel free to come up to the podium if you're interested, and just please introduce yourself and where you live.
Thank you very much. My name is Martin Marcoux. I'm here actually representing David Ginn, who lives at 5 Sea Barn Road. Do you need my address? I don't live here.
Oh, no, that's fine. Or your affiliation, so you've done that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, could you repeat who you're representing? I couldn't hear.
David Ginn, G-I-N-N.
Thank you.
This is the house that was in the newspaper that they were talking about. And we're just concerned about the property rights for the property owners of these homes. It's been difficult, economy, and trying to get things set up and keep it going. It's a lot of house, and the taxes keep going up. So that's one of our concerns as we talked about different things that we wanted to say tonight. David, realistically, this is a problem. This particular incident, not the overall issue, is a problem with the name. And they've always had problems together, and they continue to request and demand things of David and David's property. And it just seems to me that it's a little absurd that someone should be able to have that, right. He's not throwing weddings there. There were 2 weddings, one last year, one this year, which was just a few weekends ago. And it was a very small crowd and very well done, tasteful. And I think that while he doesn't really plan on weddings, and he feels that weddings are a little bit harsh on a house because there could be a lot of people, that's not his goal. He's not running a business. He's simply renting a house, trying to keep it. So essentially, one of the problems that I think we're going to have with this, if this is a key part of the issue really, is going to be the fact that I don't think that David could do anything to make his neighbors happy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Sorry.
If you could just come to the microphone so we pick up what you say on the, and if you could also introduce yourself. And
I'm David again, the owner of 5 Seaborn Road, which I believe that the Portland Press Herald was written about. Mm-hmm. And I had Marty speak on my behalf just because I get very emotional about it. It's something I put together for my family years ago, and I've just been assessed at $1.5 million, up from 1.1, and it's been very difficult to pay the taxes. And it's been my desire to do nothing but keep my neighborhood from being affected by this. I've mandated a 4-car parking policy. All my tenants adhere to it. And I think I'm pretty conscientious about the complaints that I just heard. And they hurt me to hear that, quite frankly. And I get very emotional. I've put the sweat of my life into this place, and it's been very difficult. And I feel like I'm at war with my neighbors, no matter what I do. And I think that the Lawson Road and the Seaborn Road traffic jams are from my neighbors. They have kids, they have graduations. I have pictures of cars up Seaborn Road, out onto Lawson Road, and I don't complain. And that's basically all I have to say. Just
all right.
An emotional thing for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If you want, sure. Okay. Would anybody else like to speak? Okay, then unless there's further discussion, do we have a motion?
I've got some questions.
Yes,
I mean,
go
just for the town manager at the moment. And with this particular property on Lawson Road, have neighbors, they've complained to you, have they called the police or the fire department when they feel there are excessive vehicles in the street? I mean, is that something that has occurred?
Yeah, I don't think any, I've heard comments about this. I don't specifically recall any complaints to me personally. What I worded in the agenda was it was town officials. Most of the complaints have gone to the code enforcement officer, and I know the fire department's also received a number of calls, particularly as it relates to bonfires and campfires on the beach, which aren't allowed in Cape Elizabeth. I'm not, I know the police are aware of it, but I can't really say what they've gotten for complaints. But most of the complaints have gone to the code enforcement officer for this particular property and to the fire department. In the case of the code enforcement officer, it's been his feeling that he was unable to address the most of the complaints. Within they were acting within the existing rules.
Okay, because he didn't feel there was a code that was pertinent to it?
That's correct. He did not feel that there was any existing rule or code that was being violated.
Okay. Okay.
And,
No, go ahead.
Mike, are you aware of any complaints about any other properties in town, this sort of issue?
We have received complaints, again, Bruce, our code enforcement officer mainly, about other properties in town. And then we've also, we've recently found out some others as a result of this publicity of, places that, it's causing a few more complaints to come forward.
I'm just trying to get a sense of the magnitude of the issue.
Yeah,
I don't know if we're talking about 5 complaints in a year, or 50 complaints in a year, or 100 complaints in a year.
I don't know the exact number, but it's probably a dozen or, more to that range.
A dozen or so in a year?
A dozen a year.
Okay, thank you.
My view would be, although these situations are very different, when we had the complaints relating to roosters, we at least forwarded that issue to the ordinance committee for review and a recommendation. And it may be that if we do this as well, the ordinance committee may come back and say, no, we don't see any need to amend the ordinance, or we may get some other ideas. So I guess I would favor a motion if somebody's willing to make it to refer this issue to the ordinance committee. Are there any other questions? Or Frank?
I was going to make the motion to refer it to the ordinance committee.
Second.
Okay. All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Sara?
I just quickly say that I'll support the motion, and I guess the major reason for me is that I see a very wide discrepancy between the regulations on bed and breakfasts and on short-term rentals. The bed and breakfasts are strictly regulated. They can only be in certain places. They can't be in residential neighborhoods. There's a limit on how many bedrooms they can have, and those particular places actually have the person living there. So for me, I don't see a qualitative difference between the two, and yet one is completely free and the other is very regulated. So to me, that feels like a discrepancy that I think the ordinance committee might do well to wrestle with and come into some greater equity.
Okay, any other questions? On the bed and breakfast, I think they can actually be in a residential neighborhood, but they can only be in certain residential neighborhoods.
Well, they have to be
Like on Shore Road?
on Shore Road or on 77.
Right. Yeah, yeah, okay. Mike?
I did want to say, assuming this gets referred to the ordinance committee, we're not too sure when they will be meeting. If anyone wishes to be notified of their meetings, if they'd like to leave their email address or email me tomorrow when they contact us through the website saying you'd like to be added to the distribution list, we'll be sure that anyone who's interested in the issue will be notified of the meetings by email.
Okay, thank you. Jessica?
Yeah, there are things about this that concern me. I think probably ultimately it should be fully explored through ordinance, although that's not what I was thinking in the beginning. I'm certainly loath to go down a road that restricts anyone's use of their private property and their personal property, but on the other hand, such use should not prohibit someone else from enjoying their own property as well. I think that's a very important concern. I certainly hope that the ordinance committee will engage the fire chief and the police chief, because it'll be interesting to see if they have been, how many times and in what circumstances they've been called in. It may be that we only need to further tighten our disturbance ordinances. I mean, that's a possibility as well. So anyway, I will support the motion.
Any other comments or discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. The last item on tonight's agenda is actually a request for executive session. So before we get to that, if I'd like to get to our second opportunity for citizens. Oh, Mike.
I wanted to take advantage of the citizens to speak for two things. First, I should have mentioned earlier, you might have noticed on the front of the podium, there's a new town seal. That was actually a gift from Cumberland County in honor of the counties. It's the 200th anniversary they just had. Whatever their anniversary. Anyway, they had asked for us to provide them, all the cities and towns of Cumberland County, with an image of our seal. And they presented these as gifts to all the different towns. So it was a nice thing, and we immediately found a use for it, and appreciate the county for having done that. Secondly, in the back row, not yet a citizen of Cape Elizabeth soon. Did you want to come up and say something? Did you want to introduce her?
Yeah, approaching the podium is Meredith Netto, who is the new superintendent for Cape Elizabeth School. So welcome, Meredith.
Thank you very much, Councilman Sherman. I would say NATO like Play-Doh. That's what I've been telling children this week. So if that helps you, NATO like Play-Doh. But thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, don't apologize. I appreciate the opportunity to just greet the council. Thank you to those of you who've been able to meet with me thus far, and I think a couple of us still have to find times, but I definitely look forward to the opportunity to work with the council and the school board in a positive, productive relationship. So thank you.
Great. Well, thanks for coming tonight.
Yes, thank you. Plus an open house at the high school.
Oh, great.
Thank you very much.
This is the time on our agenda where if citizens have another opportunity to speak to items that are not on the agenda. If anybody would like to come forward and speak, we welcome your comments. Okay, seeing none. Item number 127-2011 is a request for executive session. The recommendation is in conformity with 1 MRSA section 405(6)(c). We enter into an executive session to discuss land acquisition disposition issues.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Okay, the motion carries. Oh, yes. We will be, after we go to executive session, we will be convening for a workshop. And I am sorry, on the town center, correct. And we will be holding that in the Jordan conference room or out here?
In the Jordan conference room, we'll come back here once the executive session's over to, yeah.
Okay,
But not to, the cameras won't be running anymore.
okay, all right, thank you.